Welcome back. I'm Anastasia, and my mission is to build a community of acceptance and authenticity. I needed some adventure buddies for this journey of insight, and I am so glad that it is you. You are all welcome here, and I am grateful that you decided to join me. Today, we are doing another fan questions episode. I had a few left after my last solo episode, and I really wanted to dive into them. I am loving this. Please keep sending your questions. It is great. If you have more questions for me, you can email them to insightswithus@gmail.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at insightswithuspodcast. Today, we are going to focus on effort in relationships, also friendships, any relationship at all. We're going to talk about boundaries. We're going to talk about love. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything. And as always, these are complex and nuanced topics. Take what I say with a grain of salt. It really depends on your context and your situation. And if you need help navigating it, please go get support. This is not a replacement for therapy. And I just want you to remember that you are not alone. So before we get started, I do want to take a moment to thank my clothing partner, Occupied Mind. I'm actually not wearing their shirt today. I'm wearing a random shirt from a small Etsy shop called I'm a Delight, because I am. Thank you very much. But Occupied Mind is amazing. I love it. Their resilient shirt I've been wearing almost nonstop. I have sweatpants. It says Feed Your Demons, has some great art on it. Their belief is simple yet profound. Everyone deserves to feel at home in their own skin, and we share that dream, which is why I own so many of their clothes. They have one out right now that I keep almost buying that it's all about being salty, and I'm a sassy little bitch, so I am here for all of it. If you also like Occupied Mind, you can use code InsightsWithUs15 at checkout to find a shirt that speaks your mind and bears your soul. You can find the link to this in my Instagram bio. Be authentically you. Okay, so I got a couple questions today. I've got my notes with me, but I might riff a little because who knows where my brain is going to go. This is going to be fantastic. We're going to go on this journey together. So the first question was, I was the person friends always came to when they needed support. And now that I'm setting boundaries, I feel really lonely and no one is showing up for me. What happened? I am so sorry that you are going through this. This is so challenging and so heavy, and there's so many what ifs. Like, am I doing this wrong? What if I showed up differently? What if it is my fault? And I just want to tell you right off the bat that you are not alone. And again, context matters. I don't really know the extent of your situation, but my guess is you're not doing something wrong. You're just showing up a little differently in a way that this other person or these other people don't really understand or didn't expect from you. And we're really good at looking at relationships from our own perspective. We're not so good at zooming out and looking at it from the other person's perspective. And what is true for every relationship, whether it is healthy or unhealthy, whether you're growing together and you love it, or there's a whole bunch of conflict and you're not sure if it's going to last, no matter where you are in the relationship, I can promise you that the relationship you have with them does not match the relationship that they have with you. It might be really close and really similar, but you are two separate people interacting with each other. And this kind of question where you are the one that people always come to for support, and now that you need support, no one's showing up for you, that sounds really one-sided. It sounds like you were so good at being a listener, so good at giving people what they needed, making sure they felt loved, they felt accepted, that when it was time for you to get that reciprocated, that you were asking for it back, they're like, what do you mean? That's not what we do. You're there for me. What do you mean I have to show up for you? Sometimes people are so used to receiving in friendships, they don't even notice that they haven't given back. And if that continues for years, like if you are a people pleaser and you never say no to somebody and you are just always there for them and never ask for anything in return, and this happens for months or years on end, they've learned over time that the friendship isn't matched effort, that the friendship is one-sided, and that's what the friendship is. That's what the norm is. And so Even though it's okay for you to start setting boundaries, that it's okay for you to say, hey, I can't give this to you unless you're also going to give it back, whether it's acceptance or love or dropping everything to run to them because they're having a bad day. You can ask for reciprocity. And if they're not willing to give it back, it's okay for you to set up a boundary and go, this isn't fair to me. And I really do need that matched effort if this level of friendship is going to continue. Now, the hardest part about that is you, the person who is growing or changing or setting boundaries, you have become the disruptor now. You're not just keeping everything as it was, which felt really good for your friends who always got support when they needed it from you. Well, now suddenly you're not giving them what they're used to, and you're asking more from them than maybe they've ever given. That isn't going to feel good for them. They're going to sit there going, what changed? What's wrong? Why don't you like me all of a sudden? And it has nothing to do with whether or not you like them, and everything to do with you have given so much energy and not really gotten much of it in return. And that just sucks all the way around. It sucks for you who didn't get that matched effort. It sucks for them who fell into this pattern of feeling really good about the relationship and then suddenly it being taken away. It just doesn't, it feels icky. And it's going to feel icky because you are disrupting it. You are disrupting the old pattern and asking for something new. And this is the type of person that I was. I was always the listener. I was always the person that never put myself first. My automatic thought is, what does everybody else need? And then whatever energy is left, that's what I gave to myself. And over, God, I don't even know how long, over the last decade, I have been slowly, systematically changing these patterns. And honestly, I have lost a lot of friends because of it. Because suddenly I started saying, hey, this doesn't feel good. And I've had friends call me names. I've had friends lash out at me. I've had friends tell me that I am being a horrible person because I've always accepted them. So why am I not now? And what they're missing is I am accepting them. I just want them to accept me too. I wanted it to be a relationship that went both ways. And they just weren't willing to do that. So then I had to say no. So first of all, take a second and not just be curious about what you went through, why you're feeling lonely, why no one's showing up for you, but also think about the relationship in the other way. What relationship were you giving them? Were you giving them everything, expecting nothing in return? Were you always expecting stuff in return, but then they never gave it and then you just never enforced those boundaries and now suddenly you're enforcing them? Like, what changed in you? You were always the one they came to, and now you're setting boundaries. That's going to make some changes. So yeah, be curious about both directions of that friendship. And the second thing I'd ask for you to be curious about is not just listening to the words of somebody, but paying attention to the actions of it all. Noticing the pattern over time. I've had several friends basically tell me, no, of course I prioritize you. And then they would literally text me telling me that they'd rather hang out with a different friend, so they're going to cancel on me. It's like, well, that doesn't make me feel like a priority. That doesn't feel good. Or I've had people say, of course I care about your needs and what you want and what your capacity is. Of course I'm going to respect that. And then I say I can't join for something, and then they get mad at me and say, this is unacceptable. You don't show up for stuff anymore. This isn't okay. You're a bad friend. It's like, well, I told you that I was draining my energy commuting so often to hang out with you all, and you never came to me. It was always the other way around. So why is that okay? Why is it expected that I'm going to put all this effort towards it? And then the second I point it out, I'm the one that's in the wrong. So yeah, don't just listen to their words. Listening to them say, of course I care about you. Of course I'm going to accept you. Of course we're both in this together. when you ask for support back, pay attention to how they show up. Because the ones that can say, of course, I care about you, and then are also there for you, or can't be there for you physically, but remember and check in with you. And when they're able to show up, they do prioritize you. Like they put it in their calendar and they're going to show up no matter what, because maybe you don't see each other that often. I have some friends like that, but you're there for each other when you need to be. Like that action over words feels so good. And I don't know if I'm making sense or if I'm just blabbering at this point, but basically, if you lean into the friendships that do reciprocate your effort, where it is more similar in both directions, and they don't just say the supporting words, they show supporting action, those are the kinds of friendships and relationships that are going to build over time. And I have a beautiful circle of friends that, some of them we don't talk or see each other more than a couple times a year, but like, they're my ride or die. I trust them so deeply. And there was a lot of grief and a lot of pain and a lot of saying goodbye to the relationships that weren't reciprocal in order for me to find this group that I have today. So don't give up. You're on this. And this next question, actually, this is why I saved them together, because they go together. But this question is, I feel really guilty when I set boundaries. How do I stop this? Okay, so the short answer is you can't stop the guilt. The guilt is a reaction. You don't really have the ability to pause in the guilt or change the guilt or control the guilt. And I did an episode on this a while back, so this might sound familiar, but there is this idea in Buddhism called Buddha's arrow, and there's 2 arrows. The first you cannot avoid. The first is your reaction to what is happening, the emotion that comes up, what angers you, what upsets you, what makes you feel guilty, the thoughts that are happening, like this burst of you can't control it. You saw this thing happen. Now you're feeling some sort of way about it. The second arrow is the one that you have a say in. You can choose to not get hit by it. And the second arrow is your reaction to the first. So if you feel guilty for setting a boundary and then you panic and freak out and think you're the worst person ever because you feel guilty, well, that's the second arrow. You actually have a say in that. You get to decide what the guilt means. So you can't stop feeling guilty, but you can make it easier to navigate feeling guilty. So now that we've got that out of the way, let me explain what I mean by this. And everything in our systems, our patterns, our reactions, our behaviors, how we think, how we survive, everything comes from survival, our way of getting through it. It is adaptive. It was helpful in some way at some point in our life. And so anytime something shows up in your system that doesn't really feel good and you're like, oh, I want to stop this, take a moment and ask yourself, how is this thing trying to help me? So with guilt, how is guilt trying to help us? And again, context, it really depends on your situation. But more often than not, I find that guilt protects us from loss of connection. It doesn't know what type of connection you want to prioritize. It literally just says, if you choose this, we might not be connected to this person anymore. It could disrupt. It could cause us to not be close anymore. That doesn't feel good. We should feel guilty about this. But again, if guilt literally is just a cue that there's a risk here for loss of connection, for somebody misunderstanding what you're doing, for risk of them not being pleased and then being mad at you, that doesn't actually mean you're doing something wrong. That guilt is literally just a sign that you're doing something different and you don't really know what that outcome is going to be. It could be wrong depending on your situation. Maybe you really are just treating people horribly and trying to convince yourself it's fine. I don't know your life. But more often than not, when we feel guilty, we're just showing up for ourselves, especially if you're a people pleaser. You're probably just saying no gently and thinking you're a terrible person. So if you are that person who never says no, and then you suddenly start saying no, the guilt is going to show up because you're finally choosing yourself for the first time, which means you're not doing the thing that keeps that person in your life at all costs, including the cost of yourself. So congratulations. That is really fucking hard to do. It is so challenging to choose to say no when you never say no. And that guilt does a good job of trying to convince you it's not worth it. But again, guilt just protects you from loss of connection. It doesn't tell you what type of connection is important or what type of connection you might lose. So tying this back to the first question, I had a lot of guilt when I first started saying no, when I started setting boundaries, when I started choosing rest and recharge for my very exhausted body. My body gets very tired very quickly compared to the norm, and I need a lot of downtime. I need to move slower. And I spent a lot of my life trying to push through that and move at the speed of others out of fear that they would judge me or not like me or be mad at me for not wanting to do the things they want to do. So saying no to that, I have lost a lot of friendships. I have ended several relationships because things didn't feel right for me. And I said no. And they did get upset and they did walk away. And those people aren't in my life anymore. But that connection wasn't the type of connection I wanted to prioritize. I wanted a reciprocal relationship. I wanted friends who weren't going to judge me for being me and who were going to understand when I was busy and didn't have space for them. And when they really needed me, I would prioritize them. And, sometimes I do need to choose myself, even if it doesn't feel good for them. And the people in my life today, the connections that I want to prioritize, I don't feel as guilty for saying no because they also say no. They also set boundaries with me. And sometimes it doesn't feel good, but I always understand it and I always respect it because that's the connection we have. I'm not going to lose that connection by saying no to them. So the guilt at first is going to be really strong when you're not used to setting boundaries. But the more you set them, the more you realize, no, this is really important. And this actually heals our relationship. This can make our relationship stronger because suddenly we both have a say in it instead of me pushing myself to the side just to make the other person happy. So when guilt shows up, you can't stop it. You can't stop that first arrow, but you get to decide what the guilt means and what you do with it. So if guilt shows up again in your life when you're setting a boundary, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, what kind of connection am I afraid to lose right now? Is it worth it? Is this boundary and this connection to myself a bigger need than just saying yes to what that other person wants? And if the answer is yes, myself, I am more important, well, then you just let that guilt exist and you keep going. And eventually that voice that tells you should feel guilty will get smaller and smaller over time. Okay. So the third question we have today is, I want a deep and meaningful relationship, and no one seems to be able to meet me there. Am I alone in this? So the official answer to this question is very simple. No, you aren't alone in this at all. There are so many people out there who want deep and meaningful relationships. I promise you, you are not alone. So now the complicated answer to that is each person is at a different point in their journey. So what is deep and meaningful for one person is going to be different for what is deep and meaningful for you and the level of depth that you are ready for. So I might try to go through this with a couple different examples here, but basically, imagine someone who has literally never gone to therapy before, has little insight, almost no language around their internal experience. They might view deep and meaningful as literally going, I'm sad right now, and then just calling it a day. I don't know why I'm sad, or I don't want to go into why I'm sad. I just wanted you to know I'm sad. See, look, I'm deep. Whereas somebody who has been in the work, has spent years building language and building insight into themselves, who listen to this podcast and really think about it and put it into practice in their lives. Proud of you, all of you who are here and still with me on this journey. Their and yours, your internal experience, our internal experience of what going deep means is going to be so much more than I'm feeling sad right now. It's going to be, ooh, this feeling is tied to this pattern in my past, and this is how I want to heal that, and this is how I'm going to sit in my sadness, and I'm going to let you witness me, and we're going to be vulnerable together. Both can be seen as deep and vulnerable, deep and meaningful, but they're going to be on two completely different levels. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And so many people who haven't done this work, who haven't gone deeper, don't even realize how deep it goes. Like, we've got a Mariana's Trench of depth here. And people are looking at the swimming pool going 15 feet. That's pretty deep. I think I'm going to try that today. Meanwhile, some of us are in our scuba gear going like, I literally can't get that deep. I think I'm gonna have to wait and build up some more skills. Wait till technology gets a little bit better. Maybe I'll try again. I had a client once. We did a feelings wheel, which I did an episode on this way back when with a bunch of amazing women in STEM, where I explored how to run through the feelings wheel. But I did this with a client, and basically I have them think about a stressful experience and then name any and all feelings that come up. Could be 3, could be 30, who knows? And as we were running through this experience, I have my client rate, okay, you're feeling sad, 0 to 100%. How sad are you feeling? And my client pauses and goes, I'm realizing something for the first time here. If I didn't feel an emotion greater than like 50% intensity, I told myself it didn't exist and I wasn't supposed to feel it. Like, you're making me think about 5% intensity. Didn't even realize feelings could be that weak. Didn't even notice them if they weren't really at the top level of the spectrum. And so imagine if you're someone like me, where I feel and can identify the majority of my feelings, can be like, ooh, like I'm mostly happy, but I've got like 5% of uncertainty sitting here. I think I need to sit in that uncertainty and understand it a little bit more. And then you have somebody next to me going, man, if I'm not seeing red with rage, I don't even notice my anger. The depth for me and this other person are going to be so different. So two people can want depth and meaning in a relationship, but you might not be in the same place yet in order to match the depth. And we'll get to what my answer for that is in a moment. But I want to keep talking about this idea of depth and continuing to go deeper, because you could continue healing, continue finding new depths, uncovering layers forever if you wanted to. There is the ability, the choice to never stop learning, to never stop growing, to never stop healing if you don't want to. But also, it's important to take breaks and enjoy life throughout the healing journey. If all you do is focus in on, I must go deeper, I must find people who are ready to dive into all these deep patterns with me, like, amazing, great, do that. But also, like, look at the sunset, go touch grass, enjoy what the healing journey has unlocked for you. I used to be so anxious that I would basically cause nausea in my stomach from the anxiety, to the point that I couldn't enjoy food. Like, food was not enjoyable because the anxiety forced my body basically to shut down. And through the healing journey, I'm not as anxious as I used to be. I still have anxious moments. I could always work myself up into a panic if you asked me to. The anxiety is like right there. But I do get to enjoy food now. And I have these moments where I just sit down outside in the mountains and I look at the view, and it just, like, the world stops. I don't need to go deeper. I can just slow down and exist for a second. So Deep and meaningful relationships are really important, but it isn't everything. It isn't just about, can you go deep with me? It's about, can you just exist with me? Can we just enjoy life together? So think about that also. And I was listening to a colleague talk recently, and she said she'd come on my podcast. So stay tuned. I'm so excited. Her name is Laurel. Her brain's amazing. You're going to find out why if we ever get our schedules together. But she was talking about how a closed, perfect system will never find flaws because there isn't anything outside of the system to point out what is missing. So a closed system, you're just going to go forever, whether it's perfect or not. An imperfect system, where it isn't a closed loop, will be constantly discovering ways to improve, to see what needs to be worked on because it isn't a closed loop, just constantly giving feedback on itself. So thinking about this in the healing journey, if you think that you are done, healed, perfect, fixed, you're likely in a closed system and missing something. If you've never been to therapy and you're like, I don't need therapy, I'm fine, I don't have anything wrong with me. Well, first of all, there isn't anything wrong with you. You're beautiful, you're perfect, nobody's broken. But also there's stuff you could be curious about. There's maybe pain that's in there that you've been avoiding that maybe deserves to be felt, or insecurities that you don't even have language for because you didn't realize you could think about it that way, that having a therapist navigate it and help you feel loved and seen and witnessed in might make your life just a little bit better or easier or lighter. Who knows? But if you're in that closed system, you're never going to know. And so an imperfect system in the healing journey is you're never done. It is constant. And every time you learn something new outside of the system is going to be like, hey, have you looked at this yet? And you'll be like, shit, I haven't looked at that. Maybe I should go a little bit deeper. And the way that I picture it is I imagine a room with several doors. And each door represents a different path on your healing journey. So it could be like, my anxiety, and then, my eating disorder. And then, over here we have my relationship dynamics. And over here we have similar to my relationship dynamics, but maybe like my fear of commitment. And we have all these different doors. And let's say I go to therapy and I decide to focus on my anxiety door. As I do all this work and I prepare myself and I build these skills so that I can go through that door, I finally walk through the door and it's like, I did it. And then I look around and there's 10 more doors. Because now I learned how to sit with my anxiety. So now I look at my anxiety and I go, these are all the things that are leading to this anxiety. Here's this piece of me. Wait, I just learned about EMDR. Can we do that? Oh shit, look at all this hard stuff from my past I've literally never felt. And then every time you walk through a new door, there's more available to you. And you could always continue walking through doors, and you could even backtrack and choose to go through the commitment door and go that way. And then you come back and it could never be done. It's a never ending system because there's so much to experience and so much to learn about yourself and being human and other people and how we relate to each other. So if you always want to keep learning, you can. And you might reach a point in your life where you're like, I've gone through enough doors that I kind of want to just chill where I am for a second. And if I ever want to walk through another door, I know that I can. I have the ability to keep going deeper. So I want to bring it back to that idea of like, okay, so you and this other person, both of you want deep and meaningful relationships, but maybe you're at different places of what depth means. Maybe one of you's gone through like 150 doors and the other's only gone through 20. Like there's so much left to uncover. So what does this mean for finding someone, being in a relationship romantically with another person? It does not mean you have to find somebody who's been through as many doors as you. You do not have to find somebody who is at the exact same level as depth as you. Sure, it would be nice, but it isn't a deal breaker. And for me, how I describe this with this idea of depth and all these doors and everything that's happening, for me, I don't necessarily care what the depth is when I meet somebody. Like when I met my partner, I cared less about where are you literally in this moment? Like what is your capacity? What is your ability? What I cared about, what I was looking for was a mutual interest in continuing to grow and deepen where we started. I opened up, I think during the last AMA actually, about how a previous partner of mine literally told me he would never want to have these conversations. He had no interest in growing or learning or dealing with conflict with me. So that was a big deal breaker for me. I'm like, nope, I want depth. I want to keep growing. I don't care where you are, but you have to be willing to dive with me at least occasionally. I do not want to be in the exact same place that I'm in right now, 10 years, 20 years from now, especially with a partner. I want somebody who's going to want to change with me so that we can look back in 20 years and go, holy shit, look at how far we've come. Do you remember who we used to be? How little capacity we had? All these patterns we were stuck in? I'm so glad that we did this work together. So yeah, I don't want somebody to match my depth. I want somebody to match my effort and curiosity for depth. And the rest we can figure out along the way. And so far, it seems like I got somebody. So shout out to Elliot. Thanks for listening to every single episode of this podcast. He's literally my number one fan. And he's learning and he's growing. And he'll listen to my episodes and then be like, oh my God, this thing that you said, can we actually process that? Because like it brought stuff up for me. So not only am I doing this and building insight with all of you, like he listens to these episodes that I don't really tell him about ahead of time. And then we process it together. So we're in that loop of constantly growing and evolving together. And it feels so good. And then we have days where we're like, let's just watch trash TV and think about nothing because it's important to take breaks too. So this last question, I wish I might try to get Sadie to talk to me about this question because I love this question. This question, I'm really building up the pressure here. This question, I could write a whole book on it. I'm not going to lie. This question, this answer is not going to be good enough. Okay, I'm ready to tell it to you. So this question is, do I need to be able to love myself before I can let someone else love me? Do I need to be able to love myself before I can let someone else love me? God damn, is that a complicated question? And everyone is going to have a different answer for this depending on where they're at in their life and how they feel about it. So, recognizing that this is my answer and my answer alone, and it is okay if you disagree with me. And if you do disagree with me, that's okay. Leave a comment. Let's talk about it. Maybe I'll bring it up during my next episode. So my answer for this is yes. You do need to be able to love yourself before you can let someone else love you. And also no, you don't have to love yourself first before someone else can love you. Because it really depends on the depth and where you're at and what's happening in your life and what is accessible to you and what your capacity is. And both directions of that is so, so important. So basically, yes and no and both and neither, all at the same time. Welcome to the human experience, everybody. Basically, being able to love yourself first will open you up to more opportunities in life, in love, in connections. If you love yourself more, you will have more capacity and trust in your ability to want or choose certain paths. If you don't love yourself first, then you might not think you're worthy of a path that you really want. Or you might feel a connection with someone and think that you don't deserve it, that you can't be with someone like that. Like you are less likely to allow yourself to experience really valuable and maybe magical experiences in relationships if you don't love yourself. So yes, loving yourself will open you up and allow others in to love you. However, going in the other direction, letting someone else love you can help heal the parts of you who struggle to love yourself. So witnessing someone love you, like witnessing someone loving me wholly and completely and unconditionally in all of our mess and our imperfections, that can unlock self-love in a way that might not have been available to you previously. You might not have actually been able to achieve or find that type of self-love without someone loving you first. You might need proof that you can be loved in that way before you realize that you can give it to yourself. So literally it goes both ways. But also think about it in terms of that depth of that previous question. If you only have, let's say, 50% self-love, and then you meet somebody who can love you 70%, you're going to look at that and be like, holy shit, that is so much more love. That's amazing. I don't need anyone else. This is the best I am loved 30% more than I ever thought possible. And maybe that does feel like a lot of love to you. So then you start going, I love feeling 70% loved. Actually, I like this. I like how they view me. This is amazing. Let me do this work. And then maybe you build up your capacity and you get yourself up to 70% love, like 70% self-love towards you. You're matching your romantic partner's percentage of love for you. But in all that work, maybe you realize you actually want to love yourself 100%. Well, suddenly that 70% doesn't feel like enough. You're going to want your partner to love you more. Maybe there's conditions on that love that you didn't see back when you were at 50. You were like, well, of course I deserve those conditions. Of course I have to show up for you in this explicit way in order to receive that love. It's 70%. I could never ask for 70%, and you're giving it to me as long as I fit into this box? Of course. So then you love yourself unconditionally. You learn to love yourself. It'll help you recognize that you do deserve more, that you want somebody who can also love you 100%, completely, unconditionally. I love you for you no matter what's going on in your life. So letting someone love you before you love yourself unlocks it. But again, going back to depth, it might unlock it to the point that you see more, you have more insight, you recognize what's missing, and then maybe you end up moving on because of it. And this can go in the other direction in terms of relationship as well, where if you are somebody who loves somebody who struggles to love themselves, I can't promise you how it will go. But if you accept them and continue to love them as their messy selves, they might grow and heal. They might learn to appreciate that love. They might learn to love themselves. And maybe that's you two continuing on together, right? That mutual depth and wanting to learn and grow. But it might break you up. And either way, you two are going to be an influence in each other's lives. You're going to show each other what's possible, what you want, what you need, what lights you up, and what makes you feel like shit. Relationships are life in hard mode, and then you add kids and that's expert mode. But basically it points out everything you haven't healed yet. And some people just look at that and go, well, I guess that wasn't the relationship for me. And you look for somebody else who's at the same level of depth and doesn't want to grow. And for some people, you look at that and go, oof, I need to find somebody who's going to put more effort in. Let's try this again. Letting it happen. Letting yourself grow and heal. Letting them grow and heal. Learning to love yourself. Learning to love others. It is a vulnerable and scary experience that most people put off. Or once you have it and your heart is broken. Listen to my breakup episode with Sadie if you're going through a breakup and you need more about that. But if you're just heartbroken, you might have a part of you that's like, never again. I don't want to love anybody. I don't want anybody to love me. Like, I'm over it. I'm going to be single forever. Okay. Yeah, that's totally fair. That's very protective. That's super important. And what was missing? Maybe it was mutual effort. That's what was missing for me. So I want to end with a fact from the Gottman Institute. They have been researching relationships for like 40 plus years. They did research on this work. If you're willing to do the work or not, what is your likelihood of divorce? And the Couples most likely to get divorced is when one partner is doing the work and the other isn't. Because you're learning and growing and understanding and building insight and understanding what you need and what you want and what's going wrong and where the conflict is coming from and what needs to be worked on and what needs to be healed. And then your partner's sitting there going, nah, I think we're fine. Nah, I think it is just what it is. That disconnect is the most likely to end a relationship. The second most likely to end a relationship, or the second most likely to stay together, it's the middle, there's only 3 options in this example, in this fun fact, are the couples where neither are doing the work. It is what it is. We just kind of scream at each other sometimes and then spend 2 days not speaking, and then everything goes back to normal, status quo. Those people are going to last longer than when one person is asking to do the work and the other is refusing. And then the most likely to stay together, the most likely to last, is where both partners are doing the work. Because in that kind of relationship, you understand that it is constantly changing and evolving. And you're learning new stuff about you. So when your partner comes home and says that they've learned new stuff about them, you're like, ooh, tell me, what'd you learn? What'd you figure out? How have your values shifted? Where did this pattern come from? Oh shit, that makes so much sense based on this other healing journey you went on related to this other thing. Like, you're going to be in it together and you're going to be able to accept those changes in dynamic as you get older and change and learn and grow together. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Chef's kiss. So hopefully that answered your questions today. I definitely feel like I went off on some tangents, but I brought it back around. So if you have any other questions for me, feel free to email me at insightswithus@gmail.com or send me a message on Instagram at insightswithuspodcast. I love answering these questions. I am such a nerd for this shit. I am here for it all. Please feel free to email me. So if you enjoyed this podcast and you want to hear more, please follow, like, or subscribe. If you want to support the continuation of this podcast, you can donate. You can support Insights with Us on Substack. You can also comment and reply and ask me questions on Substack. You can also find me, Anastasia Soroka, on buymeacoffee.com. You can find digital downloads on my website, happymindwellness.com. And above all, I just want to take a moment and share some gratitude. Thank you for being my adventure buddy. Thank you for sending me questions. Thank you for letting me nerd out in such a fun way. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for creating insight with us.